Hello, Guilty Feminists. I was very lucky this week to be able to sit down with Eve Blake, the creator of the musical Fangirls. And whether or not you think you can get to see this musical, the conversation's really, really worth listening to. And you can stream it on Spotify. But I hope you can get to it. If you can anywhere near the Lyric Hammersmith in London, really get down there. It's only on for, I think, 3.5 more weeks. It has had 8 5-star reviews. And this is a little musical out of Australia that has been created from the most feminist of origins, the most indie of origins. 8 5-star reviews in London and still going. And The Independent describes it as combining the acid wit of Six, the rebel streak of Matilda, and the gooey heart of Everybody's Talking About Jamie. It says Eve Blake's new musical will inspire outsized feelings and ardent devotion. In the words of the Fangirls, it left me, quote unquote, actually dead. A musical that feels unlike anything else. I would completely agree with that. It's really, really worth listening to the conversation. Obviously, we hope it will transfer, and obviously we hope it will tour around the UK and around the world. And of course, you supporting it at this level, however you can, is really going to make that far more likely. So listen up to my conversation with Eve right now. Thank you. Hello, 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 and welcome to a very, very special culture edition of The Guilty Feminist. Today we are talking about Fangirls, a new musical with book, music and lyrics by Eve Blake, who's right here with me. Hello, Eve.
Hello.
I want to talk about this so much because it is such a feminist musical in a way that I've never seen before.
What?
I think it's doing something different. And I have to say, Eve, as the ridiculously young creator of this musical that's had its first life in Australia and is now in London at the Lyric Hammersmith, I went to see it with Kathy Lett, who is an Australian novelist, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what to expect. I just knew it was called Fangirls, and I had a vague idea that it was about teenage fangirls from the posters I'd seen. At the end of the first song, I realised I was sitting there like my mouth open in the first scene, the first song. I was just like, I just totally got it. It was such an unexpected opening. The opening scene, without spoiling anything, is like being in a music video, but like watching a teenage girl who looks like a teenage girl, who doesn't look like she should be in a music video. She looks like a teenage girl. And she is in her own music video. And I immediately thought, I think she's in this in her head. And it was just such an arresting opening and so active and energized and passionate and joyful. And I went, I get this feeling. I've been this teenager. And I still am that teenager in many ways, walking around the world, imagining things in my head, imagining myself being in the story. And I just went, oh my God, this is so good. This is absolutely through the perspective of a teenage girl's eyes. And whatever age you are, you will relate to it. And I just turned to Kathy at the end of the song and went, I already love this. At the end of the third song, I turned to her and went, I really love this. And at the interval, I said, I don't think I've ever loved anything more, including my husband. So that is my starter for 10.
Wow.
I'm so impressed that, well, how old were you when you wrote it?
I firstly just have to say this is blowing my mind because anyone listening, can you even imagine? I was 22 when I started writing this, and I remember when I began writing this, I would take little writing walks when I got blocked, and I'd listen to my favorite podcasts, including The Guilty Feminist. So to be sat here and have you say this about my show, first of all, it makes me go, wait, I finished it? But second of all, like this is just, it's mind-blowing. Thank you so much.
Oh, look, I'm so thrilled. And I find that really kind of moving because you never know how your art, you just shove it out into the universe and you don't know how it's going to inspire another artist, if I can be so pretentious as to call my
I'm with you. You let it out like a fart and you don't know who's going to smell it.
Well, that is not how I would put it.
No, that's how I would put it, in fairness. You never said those words.
I do not enjoy scatology, but
okay. We're not the same in that way, but I respect you.
But I think you just put your work out into the universe and you don't know who's going to hear it or what it might embolden them to do or trigger them to do. And I had a rugby player on once and she said, it's really given me like courage and boldness to keep going in a very, obviously a very male-dominated industry. And I feel like similarly, Fangirls, it's all knock-on. Fangirls is going to affect teenage girls in so many different ways. And anyone who's been a teenage girl, and it's not just girls either, there's a lot of queer representation, how fangirls aren't just fangirls, they're fan femmes and fan gays. It's not, anyone can be a fangirl. And sometimes people say, you hear straight cis men saying, I'm fangirling about this at the moment. And it means I really care about something. And that's sort of the starting place of the deep, deep passion. What made you want to write about Fangirls? What was the original invitation to write this?
The first spark. Well, it's funny, like this project's been in my life for years and I never get sick of talking about this. But back in ancient times, in 2015, there was a boy band called One Direction that some of us will remember. And some of us will remember the day that out of nowhere, a member of that band, Zayn Malik, left. Like, without warning, just left the band. And it was a global news story. And I wasn't really across One Direction, but this news story really kind of, you couldn't avoid it, right? It was everywhere. And I noticed that, like, in mainstream news outlets and, like, really highly respected papers, journalists were reaching again and again for the same adjectives to describe the fans of One Direction, which of course they presumed to entirely be teenage girls. And I noticed that they were calling them words like crazy, psycho, hysterical, over the top, pathetic, desperate, a bit much. And I asked myself the question, like, would they reach for the same set of adjectives if this was a story about an upset that had happened in men's sport? And I asked myself the question, like, why is it that the image of, like, a teenage girl screaming her lungs out at a pop concert might be deemed as, like, crazy, pathetic, desperate, but the same image, and it's a young man screaming his lungs out at the sport, might be described as loyal, devoted, that's the love of the game. And that was the spark, that was the catalyst. But then my next job is like, okay, if this is what I want to talk about, how do I build something that's like this sparkly, funny, bombastic Trojan horse that feels like a pop concert to attend and then like cracks open and smuggles this message into your heart?
I think that's what struck me as feminist about it. Like, on the face of it, teen fangirls of a boy band doesn't necessarily speak immediately to feminism, although there are, feminist issues within. But this really, really does, because I think what you've just said really comes out. Like, why, I remember Harry Styles years ago being asked about, someone was trying to denigrate him and say, oh, it's just teenage girls who like your music. How does that feel? I think that was the context. Anyway, he said, but why is the taste of teenage girls not as valid as the taste of 45-year-old men? It's just music. Yeah. He was like, by the way, if you can hear my cat crying in the background, that is my cat crying in the background. That's what you can hear.
We love Toast.
There's nowhere else I can, how you can't make cats go anywhere else.
We love baby Toast.
And it's a feminist issue because I don't want to silence her.
No, exactly. Women's stories matter, so Toast has to be in this room.
Exactly. Toast is expressing her feelings. So what I loved about it is that normally anything about fangirls, I feel, is written anytime they're portrayed. They're never the center of the story. And if they are, it's like they're written from the point of view of somebody who sees them as risible, who sees them from a distance as exactly how you were describing them, a bit much. And it's a bit hysterical. And you're getting right inside the feelings of girls, young girls who are turning into women. And you're asking the question, why is it so important to them? And you're exploring what inside of them is feeling lost, what inside is feeling incomplete, what inside of them is feeling unseen, and then how they take those feelings and project them onto a boy or a boy band or a pop star. And it's like a repository or a safe place to put their feelings of loneliness and uncertainty and that terrible time of change where, it's wonderful and terrible at the same time when you're coming of age and you're finding the
turmoil
yourself.
Of being 14, right?
Yeah, finding your sexual self, finding your developing self. And it's really helpful to have this avatar, this place that you can imagine, but if I met him, he would understand, or he's feeling what I'm feeling. And it's so beautifully done without being afraid to laugh at itself or parody itself. But it's from this place of knowing affection in the same way that you can take the piss out of your family, but nobody else can, because it seems unkind if somebody makes a crack about your mum, but you can tease your own mum. And I feel like that's what it is.
I love you so much for saying that, and here's why. Like, when I started writing the show, I thought it's way too easy to make a show that just vindicates fangirls and teenage girls. And it would be way easy to make a show that just makes fun of them. And I reckon, to get people to listen, I think you have to get them to laugh. So ideally, and it feels like this is the experience you've had, but ideally this is a show where you sit down and you think, oh, this show is going to make fun of young women and young fans. Fan-fams is such a great term. But it like makes you laugh at them only to make you cry with them. And it's unafraid to hold up a magnifying glass, I think, to the darker sides of like parasocial relationships and what it means to like come of age in a time when we've never had more access to celebrities. Like the show really, without spoiling anything, like really goes there. But I love what you have said so much, because my goal was absolutely to like make fun of teenage girls to get you like laughing and then get you to understand them, and like, and maybe listen to them in a way that we're not used to. Because I think as well, like what inspired me so much about that One Direction example is I felt like it just kind of all became so clear to me that the way that we talk about fangirls is a microcosm, I think, for the way that we talk to young women and people who aren't men about themselves, and the ways we ask them to see themselves, the lies we tell them about themselves. And I just so vividly remember being 14 and watching me and my friends, our bodies change, and seeing the world understand us as women, and feeling like all the rules were changing for us, and noticing the different ways that people would speak to me because I was a girl, and like that's the kind of like, there's so much stuff in the show, of course, about bodies as well, about like, the way you're asked to look at your body in a brand new way as a teenager, and the expectations that are impressed on you. And yeah, I just basically, thanks, babes. I think you got it.
I
think you got it, babes.
I got it deep inside of me. It really reminded me of being a teenage girl, and it put me back into that state rather than just reminded me mentally, but in a good way, in a way that also reminded me how much of that teenage girl is still inside of me. Can you tell us what the story is about?
Of course I can. I would love to do that. So Fangirls is a show that follows a 14-year-old girl called Edna. And Edna is in love with someone called Harry, but unfortunately so are 38 million other people. He's the biggest pop star in the world. He's in an enormous boy band by the name of Heartbreak Nation. But Edna doesn't love Harry for the reasons everyone else loves him, like his perfect hair. She feels that they have like a special and different connection, because she believes she's the only fan that can see what's truly in his eyes, which is that he's really burned out and he doesn't want to be on tour anymore, and his management have just been like working him to death, basically. So Edna, she is like blisteringly smart, and she has won a scholarship to a posh all-girls private school. Oh, she lives in Australia. She lives in Sydney. And fortunately, she's made these two best friends in the world. But unfortunately, one of like the inciting incidents in our show is that her two best friends in the world basically turn against her, and one of her friends goes like, we are starting year 9, we are almost 15, it's time for us to like, she doesn't say this, but she's basically like, it's time for us to get fingered, Edna, grow up. We're too old to be obsessed with a boy band. So yeah, her friend Jules just becomes fixated on the fact that they have to grow up, they have to get boyfriends. What are they doing? And Edna, being dropped by her friends and facing so much academic pressure from her mum, turns her focus to her new life's purpose, which is saving Harry. She's like, there's got to be a way I can actually affect change. There's got to be a way I can make contact with him. Like, he is suffering and I'm going to save him. I'm going to set him free. So I feel like if I say anything more, I'll spoil the rest of the plot. But basically, Edna goes to really extreme lengths to try to accomplish her goal, and things get very messy. And then, of course, at the end, I guess she kind of has to revisit some of the ideas that she started the show with, and ask herself a little bit about like how the things that the world has asked her to believe about herself.
Mm-hmm. And there's a song in it that's really poignant, that's a company number where you're hearing lots of different people sing their song from their own points of view. And is it called Disgusting?
Oh, yes, I love that song. Yes.
It's so moving, but it's about these teenage girls seeing themselves as disgusting. Like, what's the name of the best friend? The
Jules.
mean best friend.
Jules.
So Jules, who's the mean best friend, but we do also understand
Yeah,
why
we
she's
come to learn why she's being such
unkind.
an iconic bitch.
Yeah, she's being unkind to other people, but it's of course coming from a place of pain. And we love her too. But she,
by the way, played by the incredible Mary Malone, shout out. That is a star. She is a star.
What an incredible breakout performance. But she starts by talking about how she sees her eyes.
That's right. So is it corny if I say the lyrics? I just feel like for
all.
context. So she says, when I smile in photos, I notice my eyes do this thing at the sides. They're all scrunched up like two little bum holes. I wish they weren't mine. And she goes on to sort of talk about what she sees when she looks in the mirror, and then lots of other girls who all can't hear each other but are in their respective bedrooms sing about the way that they see themselves. And yeah, in the chorus they ask, what if I'm just disgusting?
It's such a great example because no one else will see that. What's great about
the things they're noticing about themselves.
The casting is very diverse in all ways. Body shapes, body types. They do look like a gang of teenagers. They don't look like that clueless, projected image of teenagers.
I feel like that's such an indictment on the industry too, right? Like every time someone comments on that, I just go, yeah, and because why do so many musicals have a cast of, cis, thin, white, able-bodied people who all look like Barbies and Kens? But anyway, that's my 2 cents.
No, absolutely. And that is changing, and that is getting better. But I think this is particularly good example. It doesn't feel like diversity casting to me. It feels like this is what a bunch of teenagers looks like. Oh yeah. This is of course who should be in this musical. And the character who is singing about her eyes, it's such a great example. I mean, she is, in
stunningly
many ways,
gorgeous.
Billboard beautiful.
Yeah, she's gorgeous.
But she's focusing on this tiny thing that no one else can see. And we all have these things about us. I've got friends who just, I think, look absolutely, they look like they're in a L'Oreal commercial on a billboard, in a photo, and they go, oh no, I don't like the way that my eyes are in that, or my hair is in that, or my chin is in that, or my neck is in that. And I'm like, what are you seeing?
Well, everyone's got something like this, right? Like it's so interesting. I think back to writing that song, and I remember writing it and going, man, like if I write a song about girls and their body image issues, like half the audience will immediately turn off as soon as they smell what I'm doing. They'll be like, okay, yeah, we know girls don't like themselves. And so it was so interesting crafting that and strategically, and I know you don't like scatology, but strategically using the word bumhole to get people to listen in this ballad to what they were saying and crafting it and finding examples that were so ridiculous that the audience would laugh, only to go, oh, should I have laughed? And I just love putting audiences in that place where you aren't sure if you should laugh or cry, and so maybe you do both.
Yes.
But
yes.
I love that stuck out to you. I'm so proud of how the cast
really
performed
did.
that one.
I remember my mother saying that she wore, when she was young, scarves because she thought that her collarbones were sticking out and they were weird and they were different from everyone else's. What? And she said, now looking back, I'm like, they were the same as everyone else's, but in my mind, because you will find something to fixate on when you're young, to hate. You will find something. It doesn't matter what it is. I always remember Stephen Fry saying, I broke my nose when I was young, but I didn't bother to get it fixed because I thought I'll only hate something else. I fix that, then I'll see, hold on, look at my high forehead, or look at my chin, or look at my...
it'll just be the next in
There'll
line.
be something else to look at. And I've often thought that about, things about myself that I go, well, what if I, quote unquote, fixed that, i.e. changed it? I'd only find something else. I'd only find something else to look at in photos. And that's what we do. And that is sort of one really moving song that really surprised me. But it's not the thrust of the musical either. It's not about looks. It's about connection, I think. For me,
I love that.
I felt it was about connection and our desperate need. If we can't connect socially, that we'll try and connect parasocially, that we'll try and go, look, I'm not feeling connected to my school friends the way I was. They've grown up a bit, they've moved on. And really what they're doing is really just finding a way to be with a cool group. So I'll connect with somebody I don't know and therefore cannot prove whether or not they would connect with me. Yeah. But it's this desperate longing to connect with somebody who you have this idealized image of. Meanwhile, her mum is desperately trying to connect with her.
Oh, yeah. I love that you've pointed that out. And I also love you pointing out that song because what I tried to do with the show is, yes, it's about fangirls, but it's not just about fans. It's not just about girls. It's got all of these other kind of rooms in the house, you know. So there's that song Disgusting, but yeah, as you pointed out, like a big theme in the show is Edna is this 14-year-old girl, and she's got this single mom who is desperately trying to connect with her daughter, and that their whole thread is all about like, what do you do when you're a parent in 2024 raising a teenager who is constantly looking at a screen and you do not know what's on the other side of it? And like their dynamic is always about Caroline, her beautiful mum, always trying to say the right thing and slightly getting it wrong, and her daughter shutting down and becoming a stranger to her. And another thread in the show that's so connected to what you just talked about is like Edna makes this friend online by the name of Salty Pringle, who kind of is this like amazing queer character who becomes her found family. And as much as the show is about like the darkness of parasocial relationships and like the way that the internet can give us a warped perspective of like our connection to celebrities, it was so interesting because researching the show, it was amazing discovering these like fan fiction communities where I would see that like fans would be able to find this found family online, these queer spaces where they could discover themselves as they came of age and find the friends that they maybe didn't have in real life. And I hope that people who see the show, like as much as it's a sticky exploration of like the agonies of being 14, it's also got like this euphoria in it and these moments of like vindicating the enthusiasms and ideas of teenagers. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. Hello, Guilty Feminists. This is Deborah, just popping in with a few quick announcements. We are coming to the Edinburgh Fringe. We're doing 3 shows at the Gilded Balloon in the museum on the 12th, the 13th and the 14th of August at 7:40pm. And we have an incredible lineup for you. On the 12th of August, Catherine Bohart and I will be talking to Helen Bauer, and there will be poetry from Vanessa Kasule, a favourite of mine. On the 13th of August, Kate Checker and I will be talking to Emma Siddy, and there will be music from Isabel Rogers. And finally, on the 14th, it will be me and Chloe Petts talking to Lara Racote with music from Katie Norris. As you can see, every show will be different, so why not come to all 3? You can book now by going to guiltyfeminist.com and clicking on live shows. And speaking of shows, which are different every night, we're also producing the amazing storytelling show 16 Postcodes, which is at the Pleasance Courtyard every day at 3:30pm. Jessica Regan has lived in 16 different postcodes since moving to London from Ireland 20 years ago. And every day, audience members will help her to choose which stories she tells. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll rent, because you won't be able to afford to buy. If you've lived in any number of flats or postcodes, or you sometimes feel a bit adrift, this show is for you. To book tickets, go to edfringe.com and search for 16 Postcodes. And we'll be back in London on the 8th of September at King's Place as part of the London Podcast Festival. And our old friend Jessica Foster-Q and I will be talking to the very wonderful, very glamorous Dawn O'Porter about her new novel, Honeybee. Once again, for tickets, go to guiltyfeminist.com and click on live shows. If you want an ad-free version of this show, you can get it by going to patreon.com/guiltyfeminist and supporting us from as little as £2.50 a month. You can also do the same with Acast Plus or Apple Podcasts. And if you felt like leaving us a 5-star review, we would love you forever. It helps other people find the podcast, and that is a good thing. And now, back to the Guilty Feminist. I loved that the mum wasn't, often there's the mum character where she comes in, nags, leaves the washing on the bed, and then it's like, oh, mum, get out. Or she's trying to be a cool mum or something like that. But I really understood the mother as she herself had been a teenage girl and was just grown up and trying to make her way in the world and trying to advise her daughter the best she could and trying to find connection with her daughter that didn't want any connection with her because she was in this other fantasy world. And I feel like that was really beautifully explored. And I loved that the mum got to be proactive.
Oh, that means so much.
What a great performance that is as well.
Debbie Corrupt, say her name. Thank you. That means a lot. And also that's the character that for me is the scariest to write because I'm not a mother. I haven't been a mother, but I have been a little bitch to my mum. And so, as a teenager. And so honestly, writing their dynamic and writing some of the things that Edna says to her mum when she just wants her mum to get out of her room. For me, that's my love letter to my long-suffering mum. Shout out to Elaine. Because, like when you're a teenager, I don't know about you, but I think there's a specific dynamic that pops up between teenage girls and their mums where, I don't know, we're figuring ourselves out and we're frustrated at the world. And in my experience, I feel like we give our mums so much more crap, you know?
Oh, I think
Than
it's
a father figure.
an extremely, extremely difficult
Yeah.
and underappreciated role nearly all of the time.
All of the
And I
time.
think I loved how celebrated that she was in this. and
She gets one of the
explored.
best rounds of applause in the show without giving anything away. And I cherish that moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Edna is played by Jasmine Elcock.
Jasmine Elcock.
Good Lord.
What a
What a
star.
star.
And her Australian accent, can you believe it?
I thought she was Australian.
So many people do.
How hard was it to find Jasmine?
Oh, I mean, look, for this show, we saw hundreds of people because, first of all, they've got to be incredible actors, singers, dancers. Oh, they've got to have an amazing Australian accent because we decided to keep it set in Sydney. So we just saw so many people, and Jasmine just had this quality. It's this incredible quality she has where it's exactly what you've pinpointed. She just feels like a real teenager. There's like nothing pretentious or performed about her performance. And I feel like in musical theatre, right, things can get quite pantomime-y sometimes. And, but she just has this incredible honesty. Oh, and I should say, part of the reason we had to see so many people is that we have this incredible choreographer on the show named Ebony Williams, who was like, remember Beyonce had that music video for All the Single Ladies, and it was her and those two incredible women?
Yes.
Well, Ebony was one of those women. And then she choreographed for
Wow.
Beyonce 13 times. Now she's just choreographed Doja Cat's world tour. Then she stepped onto Fangirls. So understandably, when we were finding people for this show, we needed to find people who like could carry that level of choreography. So yeah, it was a 7-month process.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
We saw hundreds and hundreds of people.
And you said that you found Mary Malone first, and she was so funny. You then had to find somebody who could match her.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's part of the puzzle of casting, right? Is you find someone who's perfect for a role. And then particularly Mary, like her comic chops are so huge. We then needed to find someone who could play Brianna, Edna's other best friend, and could be in like all of these scenes opposite Mary and could be as funny as her. And that's how we found the incredible Miracle Chance, which, by the way, what a name. Miracle Chance. Anyway,
Wow.
but she plays Brianna, Edna's other best friend. And I would say that then that was like a task across the ensemble. How do we find that we've got 12 people on that stage and every single one of them needs to be a very silly Billy in this show? I feel like that's actually important to impress. It's like this show is full of issues and themes, but it's fundamentally just a very, very silly show.
It's a very joyful, playful show. And because it is also about girls going to see a boy band, what's great about it is at points, there's a concert and we get to be the fangirls in the audience.
Yeah, there's a fake boy band concert. That doesn't give anything away, but it's
so fun that you don't have to participate or anything, but you are allowed to act like a screaming crowd of fangirls if you want to.
Yeah.
And put your phones in the air with the lights on. And it just felt so much fun to have that playfulness. And the whole show is big. It's fun. It's very, very playful. It's naughty, it's silly, and it's got all of those qualities too. It's a good, very, very, very funny, fun night out. It's a Guilty Feminist special, really, because it's got all of the joy and the playfulness and the silliness, but it has got these, deep feminist themes. And I think you walk away really thinking about, it's human to be ridiculous, but when it's teenage girls being ridiculous, it's written off.
Yeah,
but it is human to care. It's human to be absurd. Like, people believe in their religions in a way that's like, all consuming. People cry. Like, I always think that, you talked about sport before. Like, football in this country is a place where men are allowed to cry, to hug, to laugh, to sing, to dance, to express every emotion.
Yeah, that is not socially sanctioned anywhere else.
The only emotion they're allowed outside football is anger, really. But they're allowed to put their arms around each other. They're allowed to cry real tears. They're allowed to sing. It's kind of like a church where you're allowed to sing together. And there's something very powerful about that. And when you see people at a concert, it's the same thing. We're allowed to let emotions out. We're allowed to scream. We're allowed to cry. There's a really important function there, and we must not write it off because of youth and femininity. And if we don't allow that valve, or we don't endorse that valve, or ask what's trying to come out of that valve and what other ways might it come out for young girls, it can go quite dark, as your musical explores. And I know it's a kind of parable and it's a musical theatre plotline, but it really goes there. It really surprised me with its twists and turns.
Thanks for not spoiling it, but I appreciate it.
I can't stand it when reviewers spoil things.
I can't stand it.
It's such a shame. And I wouldn't want to spoil anything, but I would say, expect the unexpected.
Expect the unexpected, my dears.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll come away singing the songs. But what I would say is that it's only on at Lyric Hammersmith for how much longer?
Only until the 24th of August.
24th of August. So, I know some people will be on their summer holidays, but some won't, and some will be coming back. Get your tickets. They've really kept it economically priced. 15 quid, 20 quid you can go for.
Yeah, the tickets start at £15.
15 quid. So you can go and see it for the price of a movie in London. It's shocking that that's what a movie costs in London, but let's be honest, it often does. So you can go see it for 15 quid, you can go see it for 20 quid, and it is an all singing, all dancing, phenomenal experience. Can I request that we do go and support this? Because this was written by a 22-year-old woman who has then developed it for 8 years of her life. Is that right?
Yeah.
Spent 8 years of her life on it. It's directed by a woman. The cast is almost exclusively women, genderqueer people, and gay men. Is that true?
Yeah, entirely.
Have I said that accurately? I don't know them all, but that's
it's true.
And
it's the girls, gays, and theys on the creative team.
It's the girls, gays, and theys. And if we don't support it, it goes away, and they say, "Oh, well, we didn't sell enough tickets to that," or "We can't invest all this money in another musical by female and femme creatives." So can I ask if there's any way of you getting to the Lyric Hammersmith in London before the end of August? Please do.
That's so generous.
If not, can you go on Twitter, on your socials, and say, hey, listen, bring this to where we are, and wherever that is, wherever you're listening from. Go out, #Fangirls. What are your socials?
I love this. So on Instagram, we're going to be Fangirls Musical, one word, same on TikTok. On Twitter, strangely, someone else has that. So we're Fangirls_tour. That's what we nabbed when we were on tour in Australia.
Great. So you've heard the socials. Go and find it. Tag them in so that they can retweet it.
That's fabulous. Also, our cast album's on Spotify if you want to try before you buy.
Yeah. Great. Go check out the cast album and share on the socials if you'd like it to come to you. If you can get to it, that would be great. We're very, very much hoping that it transfers to the West End, and the more you support it, the more likely that'll happen. I feel like it's right there in the sweet spot that Six, the musical, brilliantly excavated that market of, young people coming and seeing a show that's written for them, and that they don't have to come and go, what's this? Is this accessible for me? Look, I love Cole Porter, but there's a lot of Cole Porter that comes, into the West End and older musicals that have been revived that are not for that age group, that are not for young people. And I do think while you'll enjoy it at any age, if you know any teenagers, bring them along, because it will give them that taste for and love of the theatre as well. And support it as much as you can, even if that's just sharing, hey, to your friends who are nearby. If you have any, go see it, or we'd love it to come here, because it all adds to supporting art, feminist art that's created by feminists, that often needs that push from our community so that it will get that further life and that more projects like that will be funded. So go. If you can get to Fangirls, you will not regret it. You will have the time of your life.
Thank you so much, Deb. What the hell? That's so nice that you did that. Thank you.
No, I really, really mean it. I'm going to go back and see it on Saturday night. It's going to be my second time Saturday night.
Legend.
And the last show I saw multiple times and went on about at this level on the podcast was Hills of California, which is now transferring to Broadway. I'm not saying that the Guilty Feminist audience did that alone, but I am saying we were 90%.
Yeah, I'm not saying you're not.
I'm not saying that. I'm joking. But I really want to back art that I think is saying something feminist and or created by feminists, because I just don't think there's enough voices. Is there anything you came to say, Eve, as the creator that you didn't get to say?
No, I can't believe how conclusive this has been. And yeah, I hope people come. I hope they have fun. Like you said, it's a deeply, deeply silly show. And it's one where I think theatre can be such an elitist and polite space. You know what I mean? Like theatre is largely patroned by like people of a certain age with a certain amount of disposable income. And I really wanted to create a space that felt like you could be any age and sit in that theatre and like scream your lungs out and have fun. And like, we walk into the theatre and the floor is an LED screen. We've got these huge flying LED screens. The whole thing looks like a VMAs performance. And so I hope people come and have fun and just like, and I hope people like feel really energized by it, you know?
They absolutely will. And you're right. Like people being able to come and cheer and connect with what's going on stage means that I didn't see anybody distracted. I didn't see anyone on their phone. I didn't see it. And I hate when I see people on the phone at the theatre, but sometimes you do see someone. And I'm not talking about like a doctor or someone with a babysitting issue quickly checking their texts. I'm talking about people scrolling on their phone or sending an email, and I can't stand it. But I didn't see that because I saw everyone was so connected to what was on stage and felt that like they were a part of it without having to do quote unquote audience participation.
That's so cool to hear.
Just being swept away. And I have to say, I did feel like a heartbreak national myself. I really got into it. I'm a feminist, but I ended up feeling like a heartbreak national.
I love Heartbreak National so much because, of course, the fake boy band in our show is Heartbreak Nation. And I've been referring to the fictional fans as Heartbreakers, but I'm going to steal Heartbreak National. That's amazing.
Oh, no, I just assumed we were called Heartbreak Nationals.
Well, from now on, obviously.
Okay, so if you're a guilty feminist and you go, could you just, at the point when you're allowed to, because it's the concert, you could put up a sign. You could carry a little sign with you, just as something on an A4 paper or something would do, that says hashtag Heartbreak Nationals.
Heartbreak
and then
Nationals.
I'm a Heartbreak National. And then Eve and the cast will tell the cast, will know.
We will know.
You're a guilty feminist. You could even put hashtag guilty feminist underneath, and they'll know that you've come from the guilty feminist. I'm definitely a Heartbreak National. I'm going to get a Heartbreak National t-shirt. And I am quite devoted to that boy band now. They do sing some good songs.
Thank you.
I'm
it was
a feminist,
really
but
fun.
they do sing.
They
I'm
do.
sorry, but Heartbreak Nation do sing some good songs.
That means a lot. They were the funnest songs to write in the show.
It's quite a good parody of the sort of generic nature of
and like
boy
slightly
band songs.
problematic lyrics that some of the boy bands have been singing.
100%. Do you have any I'm a Feminist spots before you go? Because I know you've been listening to the show for a long time.
Well, I think mine is I'm a feminist, but there are some pop songs I love with problematic lyrics, and I just let myself listen to them sometimes as a little treat.
Can you name any one of those songs?
Do you know the one that's coming to mind?
Yeah.
Destiny's Child once released a song called Cater to You. 2 is the number 2. And it was a song that I had as my MySpace song.
Oh.
Yeah, at the tender age of 13. And I listen to it once a year as a treat. It's really about the idea of like of dating a man and wanting to cater to him in every way he can imagine. Cook him dinner, wear the heels that he likes. Like it's a tough read in 2024.
It's an anti-feminist song.
It's really
That's
tough.
the worst.
But once a year as a treat, I'll listen to it because it's
You love the sound of the song.
Do you know what I mean? And I just remember listening to it on like for days on repeat in that way that you do when you're 13, or to be honest, that I still do.
Yeah.
But
I still listen to songs on repeat. But it's the worst, isn't it? When you're, I have literally left the dance floor when that Robin
Bloodlines.
Robin Thicke song comes on.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunately, it's got a great.
It's got a great.
Oh my god,
groove! I know.
Groove. Its groove is that, but I have left the dance floor, and I because I've gone. No, I will not dance this. I will not groove to this. But my body is like, come
on, Deb.
Yeah, no.
I know it's tough.
And my brain is like, absolutely not, Robin Thicke. Fuck you. But inside,
you
I'm
tell
like,
him.
My hips don't lie. That's my problem.
And I've always said that about you.
Yeah, and so much so that I met Shakira once at a party, and she said, "Wow, your hips really don't lie." I'm like, the top of me is like, is river dance.
Yeah,
the top of me is river dance. Robin Thicke's got this beat going on, and my hips are not lying. And
they
Shakira
can't lie.
"I've really noticed your hips don't lie. Do you mind if I write a song about that?" I was like, "Shakira, of course, you go for it." And the rest is
here we are,
a fake history. Yeah, so I feel you on that. But the great thing about Fangirls is you can dance with abandon to all of the feminist hits in one way or another, even if it's the ironic boy band stuff.
Thanks, babes.
Eve, it has been absolutely wonderful. I can't wait to see what you do next and where Fangirls goes next. It better bloody be into the West End. I'll be really cross if it's not. And it should also tour the UK. Eve Blake, and if you're looking up Eve's music, she's YVE Blake. It's directed by Paige Rattray. Wow, what a talent. A choreography by Ebony Williams, as discussed. And the whole ensemble is unbelievable.
Yeah, they're incredible.
But the lead is Jasmine Elcock. And we've mentioned some of the other stars of this. But honestly, there is no weak link. So
no, they're all incredible.
Thank
you. This has been my absolute honor. Thank you so much, Deb.
It has been my honor to have you, Eve, and we look forward to seeing what you do next. And please come back and see us again anytime.
Yes, please.
The Guilty Feminist is provided exclusively from Acast. Find it wherever you get your podcasts.